Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dynamics Fortnite Fridays.
Hey Bart, good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. We are almost to June.
That's crazy.
I know, spring is short-lived.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, as always, we must start with something somewhat humorous. What do you got for me for a joke today?
All right. So since summer's upon us, where did the boat go when it got sick?
Go when it got sick. Got me.
Straight to the dock.
Ah, to the dock, of course. That's actually
Yep.
kind of cute. I like it. I like it. So I decided since we just celebrated Memorial Day, I'd do kind of a military one. So,
Let's,
what is a soldier's least favorite month?
hmm. I don't know. You got me.
March. All
Okay.
right. Well, let's go with something a little more fun than that. Let's share my screen and we'll get this show kicked off. So, hopefully, you are seeing the real-time voice agents at scale content. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, you are pinned
Perfect.
though. So hold on.
Ah,
There you go.
much better. Thanks for producing.
Yep.
All right. First on the list is a really nice guide to what's a little bit different about a voice agent than just a typical agent that might be helping customers do things on your phone system, wherever you have posted a real-time voice capability. And then all kinds of great guidance on what kinds of things to do to make sure that you are managing that appropriately and making sure that the builders are following best practice, making sure that you understand what's going on within the build, how to do a release of a new version or updated content for said agent, how to make sure that you are understanding what's going on and monitoring the runtime itself, and then the life cycle of this thing as you continuously improve it. How are you going to make sure that that life cycle is appropriate for what you're trying to accomplish? And all the controls that you have as admins and as makers and all the various places that you can insert better process to do this the right way as an enterprise should, making sure you're doing things securely and logging and content management and all the various things that you might want to do, including the top 5 anti-patterns that they have seen. So I thought that was actually a really well done guidance article that doesn't necessarily just apply to voice agents, but it's even more critical with a voice agent than many other things because of the degrading of the experience that happens super fast if you haven't done this right with a voice agent. Anyway, so there's that. The next one is an article that I noticed of Human in the Loop is a really nice built-in feature in the new workflows engine that is part of Copilot Studio that's called out here. But if it isn't sufficient and you want to do a custom human in the loop operation, some really nice guidance about what's not always there with the built-in option and figuring out how to leverage these webhook actions that are part of the platform just aren't leveraged that often, and what you can do to leverage that to put that to work for you in making that human in the loop approval process happen in whatever channel and whatever way you want to take control of it. So I thought that was a little worthwhile setup. Kind of in that same vein, I'm actually not even going to go through much of this. If you are an organization that leverages Snowflake at scale and you don't really want to go through the Fabric, make a data agent out of the stuff in Fabric to make it really easy to have Copilot Studio hand things back and forth off to data agents, or set up the Snowflake agent and hand things back and forth between Copilot Studio and the Snowflake kind of managed agent, then this is a setup guide for how to use the Snowflake managed MCP server to actually be an MCP server right in Copilot Studio to access and do things with all the Snowflake data. And just so you know, this is pretty involved in order to get this to work, but it's nice that we've got step-by-step instructions and where you might go wrong and all that kind of stuff as a path to get Snowflake as an MCP server surfaced in Copilot Studio so that you can leverage it should that use case be one you want to enable. We've got kind of the overarching Copilot Studio May summary of a bunch of updates. And since we've covered basically everything in here in previous shows or other times throughout our history, I'm probably not going to do a whole lot of coverage of this. The one thing that I thought was pretty helpful is I didn't actually understand that there was a new orchestration layer in Copilot Studio unless what they're actually talking about here is the task completion stuff. And maybe that is, in fact, what we're talking about is that you can turn the task completion on and have it actually do things. And if that's it, great. I just wish they would have called that out a little bit more explicitly if that's what it was. And these agent lifecycle visibility updates are actually right in the Maker portal, and they're kind of surfacing the things that it's finding like DLP violations, and this thing hasn't been published yet, and you might have reasons to not publish the way it's configured right now, and some of those kind of helper things front and center right in the overview. Outside of that, I didn't think there was a whole lot of new content in there, but it's a really nice summary if you haven't been keeping up. This one, another pretty detailed technical capability that if you are one of the frontier organizations that is playing around with Copilot Cowork, and we are inside of Microsoft, it does some pretty cool things, and you would like to be able to use a Dataverse plugin to have Cowork interacting in real time with Dataverse MCP server, that this is a really nice technical guide that you can see is fairly substantially documented of all the various things that you're going to need to do in order to get that working in Cowork. So in M365 Copilot, it's a little bit more straightforward, but getting it exposed inside of Cowork is a little more challenging, and it's nice that that has been well documented now. Another one that just came out yesterday is Microsoft is welcoming the Mistral models to the kind of native platforms like Copilot Studio. So now we not only have OpenAI models and Anthropic models and XAI models from Grok available, but we also have Mistral models available. And this, I think, is a bigger deal for our EU customer base than the US ones. But if there are US companies that would have a preference for Mistral models in some given use case, it's nice to know we can now turn them on. Right now, they are in kind of that experimental status and only available in preview environments should they be enabled, both in the M365 portal and in the Power Platform Admin Center to arrive in these environments. But if all those things are true and you want to start playing around with the Mistral models, they should be there. Last one that I'm going to mention on the Power Platform side, and this one really isn't even Power Platform specific in any way. It's just that with all of the helpers that we have built for all of the kind of skills to put into coding agents, whether you're using Claude Code or VS Code GitHub Copilot inside of VS Code or GitHub CLI inside of VS Code, or whatever your favorite coding agent platform is, that we now have a new capability specifically for the VS Code flavors of all of that, if you're using any of those things inside of VS Code, that will look at all of your prompts and the responses and those conversations back and forth between you and your AI helpers to give you advice on whether you are doing well and what you can improve on in interacting with your AI code helpers to get better and better at being a vibe coder. So I thought that was a nice enhancement. It's right in the VS Code marketplace to be able to install it. I just gave you the link back to the actual Git repo just in case that was going to be helpful for whatever reason. So that's all the Power Platform stuff I have for this fortnight. And we've only got one other thing in the customer engagement stack. This one is quite helpful. Really, for salespeople or customer service people, probably even not as much for marketing people, because this is what happens inside of the native CRM email interface that's going to send that email through Outlook. And that is essentially putting the data classification label right on the email object, so that as you are composing an email, you can set that sensitivity label on it, which will apply all of the purview protections to this email in terms of, you can't forward, or you can open but can't save, or whatever else that you might have for rules around what these labels mean in your organization. It'll just go apply all of those so that you can send emails with confidence, knowing that you are protecting it more sophisticated ways than you had the ability to do in the past. So with that, I am going to say the CE and Power Platform stuff is covered, Lauren, and I'm going to let you go over all the other goodness in the rest of our stack.
All right, let me share my screen here. And
you should be good to go.
Perfect. All right, so starting out here in, let's see, Project Ops. Well, let's see. Starting out here in HR. Let me get this loaded. I think I have one of these. Let's see. Sorry about this. So our first one's in Project Ops that I'm going to go over, and this is regarding managing exchange rates, variances in cash. So here we're going to have the ability, this is going in public preview in July with GA in September. We'll have the ability to manage exchange rate variances in cash advance transactions. So with this, you can actually use your transaction currency instead of just the accounting currency. And it's also going to post any realized foreign exchange gains or losses, so your books stay accurate. Employee accounts will always balance to zero after settlement with this, and your finance team gets that visibility into exchange rate variances. So fewer reconciliation headaches, better audit readiness. And when employees receive cash advances in one currency and settle expenses in another, or on different dates as well, foreign exchange rate differences are going to arise. And what this feature does is detect, calculates, posts all the realized exchange rate variances between that advance issue rate and the settlement or report rate. So you've got accurate reimbursement amounts, your GL impact is correct, and auditability is also done without manual adjustments. Then in commerce, let's see here, under store commerce, coming into GA this month, or no, in June, almost here, is the ability to enable associates to use the nearest store payment terminal. So any retailers that are operating large store formats, these are stores that are increasingly relying on mobile associates who are going to be moving throughout the floor to help customers. So, previously, even when a sales associate selected a dedicated hardware station away from the register, the POS system often incorrectly routed the payment to the terminal at the register, forcing associates to walk back. And this really breaks down the customer interaction. It slows down checkout. But with this capability, payment terminal selection is going to correctly follow that hardware station selection. So store associates can complete end-to-end transactions from anywhere that they're at in the store, from product discovery through payment, without returning to one particular register. So for big global enterprises with complex store layouts or even multi-region deployments, flexible payment terminal selection is really going to be helpful in things like delivering consistent mobile payment acceptance, regardless of where you're at in the store, wherever the transaction takes place. So how this works, a sales associate selects a dedicated hardware station from the point of sale. The system will then correctly pair with the payment terminal that's physically attached to that hardware station, and not actually the terminal attached to the register. And then printer pairing from the selected hardware station will already work as expected. This change aligns that payment terminal behavior to match accordingly. Then I have a number of updates in BC today. First being under our Copilot and agents. There's a number here. So what's big here is the expense agent. So this is coming into public preview in July, the expense agent on your mobile app. So first, just from a baseline, we're going to have the ability to capture expenses with the expense agent on your mobile app. And the expense agent is going to extend this capture to mobile devices by enabling employees to submit receipts right from their phone using native share functionality. Employees can take a photo of a receipt with their phone or mobile device, or they can select an existing image or document and share it. And the agent is going to process the input. It's going to extract any relevant information, and then it'll automatically create expense entries without requiring additional manual steps. So it's, a mobile experience with a full featured interface. It's aligned to the web app. So what you get on the web app is what you're going to get on the mobile app here. Employees can review, modify, complete expense details before they submit them. And they can also manage individual expenses and entire expense reports directly from their device. Next, the approval process, also public preview in July. The agent will support the approval processes. The expense agent can validate submitted expense reports against any approval policies that are written in natural language and then provide approvers with the guidance during the review process. So after an employee submits an expense report, the system's going to evaluate both the overall report and the individual expense lines to detect things like potential policy violations, any suspicious patterns, or situations that might require closer attention. And this process supports policies that aren't just limited to exact thresholds or fixed numeric conditions, such as, when business class travel is allowed, for example, what qualifies as an appropriate business meal, or when exceptions to preferred hotel standards might be acceptable. It's going to run a policy validation, and this feature can apply controls at multiple levels of the process. So, some of these will be to a particular expense line. Some will apply to the report as a whole. Other can depend on how multiple lines relate to one another. But just really a feature that's going to improve the quality of policy enforcement and gives approvers a clearer picture of the report level intent and the detailed transactions within it as well. So it's just going to complement existing approval workflows by highlighting issues, giving more context, and then just helping with enforcing policy consistently while keeping those approvers in control of the final decision. Then next, also in public preview in July with our expense agent in BC, we'll also be able to manage travel requisitions. So this will allow employees to request manage business travel before they actually create expenses. So they could, employees can create a travel rec for themselves, or if they're managers, they could do it on behalf of someone else. A single requisition can include many travelers, so you could coordinate planning for your team within one request. And travel rec is going to be stored in the travel requisition table with different related traveler records that will be managed through a connected travelers entity. And employees can specify things like the purpose of the trip, provide any relevant travel information before they actually submit the request. And then when they're ready, they'll route through the approval process that we just talked about. Approval workflow, rather. And then also in public preview in July, we're going to have the ability to have the expense agent work in German, Danish, French, and Spanish. It's going to support additional languages here, additional regions as well, which really help enable a localized experience for users in countries like Australia, Canada, Denmark, France, Germany, New Zealand, Spain, the UK. So the UI, the user interactions, and expense management workflows, such as receipt submission, expense review, report generation, all the approvals will be available in these particular languages. So approvers can work in their native language across different entry points, whether it's the web, the mobile app, and this really aligns with the broader agent architecture and workflow, which ensures that the core capabilities here, like expense capture, categorization, validation, approval, all work regardless of where you're at in the world and what language you're speaking. And then next in governments and administration, coming into GA in June is the ability to upload, install, and manage PTEs in the admin center. So this feature is going to give administrators full lifecycle control over per tenant extensions directly from the BC Admin Center and its APIs. So BC will have full management of per tenant extensions in the admin center. And in addition to viewing and uninstalling extensions, administrators can also upload PT packages. They can install them immediately or schedule installations and then view upcoming extension versions. And the API accepts extension package is going to upload directly, and this removes previous limitations that required using the automation API, which involved a lot more complex configuration and constraints. And then all the new endpoints are also exposed as tools throughout the Admin Center API MCP server. This is going to help developers manage environments and extensions programmatically and through AI-assisted workflows in tools like VS Code. Then let's see, we've just got one here in supply chain management as it pertains to inventory and logistics. So coming into public preview in July and GA in September, we have some new features in inventory and logistics where we can now include overdue supply and demand in inventory visibility ATP. So with this, you can get a more accurate view of your inventory by including overdue supply and demand in your ATP calculations. You can see the real impact of late POs and unfulfilled demand. And what this is going to do is let you include that overdue supply and demand in inventory visibility ATP calculations using a configurable backward window of up to 30 days. The ATP calculation is going to reconstruct expected on-hand delivery for past dates by actually reversing schedule changes from today's actual on-hand. So late POs or unfulfilled demand are going to be reflected in the current day's ATP. And you can also post schedule corrections for recent past dates to keep ATP signals accurate. This is going to be managed through the Inventory Visibility Power Apps interface and doesn't affect existing integrations or forward ATP calculations. Once you enable this, ATP queries will show a projected on-hand column, and this is going to display cumulative expected on-hand per day. This is going to include also reconstructed past dates, and this sits alongside scheduled changes in ATP quantity views. So when you enable backward ATP, Dataverse is going to automatically extend data retention to cover the backward window. And just to note, it may take several days for your backward data to actually accumulate. So depending on your window size, but ATP accuracy will improve gradually as this kind of builds out. So that's all I have for today, Bart. With that, I hope you enjoy
Lots
your
of stuff
weekend.
coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Hope you have a great weekend as well. And I think we can just call that a show.
All right. We'll talk in a couple weeks.
Sounds good. As always, everyone pay attention to the solution updates and places you can get more information on those. And then one thing I didn't put on the show notes that I think might be worth just hollering out, just in case people haven't been paying attention, is our build conference is next Tuesday and Wednesday, then they can join online for free if they're not going to be there in person and learn all kinds of things about all the new developer tools, including ones that would impact the Dynamics Power Platform type solutions. And looking forward to seeing what all we dream up in this new conference.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, we'll see you in a fortnight, Lauren. Thanks again.
Take care.